where they fit, and obviously going forward where they think we need to go. They believe that they believe at the moment that they don't need more resource. I asked them if they wanted me to ask you for resource. I would appreciate your telling them that it is a priority, because it is for Great Barrier, and that the resource should be made available. At the moment, we are trying to get a technical level advice as to the difference between the specifications of IDA, which are expressed in lux, L-U-X, versus the the other way around. Our plan is expressed in lux, and the IDA is expressed in lumens. And there's what does it mean? And the difficulty we have is the two parts of the rules that don't apply are shading and shielding. And they're not entirely sure the current law would allow them to impose too higher restrictions on that. So there are some issues. In terms of what you could do, obviously a resolution in support, and a resolution saying yes, you intend and in principle have no problems with it, either for the hierarchy golf plan or for the unitary plan going forward.
Right. And second question, have you presented to the hierarchy forum? What is it, the hierarchy
golf forum?
No, not at this stage, no.
Okay.
Final question, Councillor Holtz. This is the final question, members.
Thank you, Mr Chair, for your indulgence. Just thinking about the wider New Zealand network and the ability to make this a bit of a tourism, a linked tourism experience for New Zealand. I think this is absolutely critical. And I just wonder if we are working in collaboration with and sharing information with Otago Regional Council and Dunedin City Council, who have done a huge amount of work on the dark skies proposal. And secondly, I think, Mr Chair, if there is a way that we can just give a little bit of a nudge to the answer to the Councillor Simpson got. I think this is exceedingly important, but it is also, not to put too fine a point on it, a fantastic tourism and business opportunity for the barrier, which we've been looking for. Thank you, Penny.
Thank you, and thanks for that comment to close, members. So, of course, the request here today is for us to resolve a direction, and we don't have a staff paper to support such a consideration or a direction. But I'm hearing from Director Chief of Strategy, Mr Quinn, that there are no to negligible budget implications with this, and I think it's about lending our support. And I'm very happy as Chair of the committee to work with Councillor for the ward, Councillor Lee, to work with the board, to work with the community to achieve the outcome of a dark sky sanctuary.
We could, Mr Chairman, we could ask
Councillor Lee,
advice from the Stardome management in regard to this. They would certainly have a professional interest.
Stakeholder.
So I think we will, would Councillor Lee like to move receipt of the presentation from the Great Barrier Local Board Chair, Izzy, and Richard Somerville-Ryan from the Great Barrier Island Astronomers Group, and that's regarding the proposed dark sky sanctuary accreditation. And thank you both for your contributions here today. I have a second from Councillor Clow. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no, and declare that carried.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enlightening. Members, we don't have further local board input, but we have had indirect local board input on a matter which we'll consider under the extraordinary or the confidential items, the public excluded items, and that is being conveyed via email. They no longer wish to attend. That's the Māngere o Tahohu local board. There are no extraordinary items that I'm aware of or have been brought to my attention. There are no notices of motion, which takes us to item 9, and members, I refer to my email of yesterday, and I've considered both those reports under 9 and 10, and I consider that there's more preparatory work required, as I outlined in my email to you yesterday, and we will consider those items on the 28th of this month. So that takes us to item 11, which is the Future Urban Land Supply Strategy Refresh. And welcome David Hawkey and Amanda Harland, who have been doing sterling work in this refresh. And which one of you is going to open? Is it?
Thank you,
Amanda
Mr.
has
Chair.
got it.
My intention is to just quickly run through some key points on the Future Urban Land Supply Strategy refresh and then take questions, if that's okay.
Thank you.
So the purpose of the Future Urban Land Supply Strategy, which was adopted in November of 2015, was really to provide a 30-year program to sequence 15, at that time, 11,000 hectares of future urban land. It signals when these areas will be development ready and ensures that infrastructure costs are distributed over the 30-year timeframe. And it really provides a proactive and strategic approach to ensuring there's an ongoing supply of urban land, greenfield land in these areas. So the purpose of the refresh, there are two key reasons. The refresh was signalled in the earlier version of the Future Urban Land Supply Strategy, and mainly because of the unitary plan. So we have had the unitary plan decisions which have made some significant changes to these areas. Firstly, it increased the amount of land zoned future urban, as well as live zoning, or bringing into effect operative zoning in many of these areas. So we needed to review the strategy and make sure it was current. We're also wanting to align this strategy with recent technical work that's been undertaken, such as supporting growth work that in the transport field that was formerly known as Transport for Future Urban Growth Project. The proposed changes are really around the sequencing. There are some, as I said before, there's some areas that have been brought forward, mainly because of the live zoning through the unitary plan, and there are some areas that have been put back, mainly due to infrastructure constraints. There are also some areas of rural settlement, future urban zoning and rural settlement, which is rural settlement areas which have been identified again through the unitary plan. These areas were previously, or currently in the current FUL's Future Urban Land Supply Strategy, not identified, and these areas are now being brought in. They make up around 11% of the now 15,000 hectares of future urban land. There is a public engagement process being proposed. Targeted public engagement on the sequencing is proposed between the 29th of March and the 18th of April. An outline of this proposed engagement process is identified in the report. And in summary, the report recommends approval of the proposed changes to the strategy for public engagement, approval of a targeted public engagement process, and establishment of a deliberations panel of up to 6 members, including IMSB, to consider engagement feedback and report back to the committee. And also a delegation to the chair, the power to make additional or adjustments to the panel. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you, David. Look, sometimes we leave the acknowledgements to the very last, but I've been hugely impressed by the way you've gone about this refresh, the collaborative embracing with NZTA, on our own Healthy Waters, Water Care, Auckland Transport, and a lot of others, to make sure that we get all the inputs at this stage, and we're not grappling for issues later on. So I really appreciate the way you've conducted this refresh. It's made it a lot easier for all of us here. Thank you. Questions at this stage, members? Councillor Newman.
Thank you very much, Amanda and David, and excellent work. At the unitary plan hearings for the IHP, this is in relation to Takanini. Phil Jaggard from Healthy Waters entered into the evidence of that hearing very compelling information about the stormwater infrastructure costs in Takanini North. He actually put the price tag at a minimum for $200 million for the infrastructure work just required for drainage in Takanini North. In that evidence, he proposed that there was a need to undertake a detailed stormwater assessment to assess development scenarios. So my question is, has that development assessment has that stormwater assessment taken place yet? And if so, can that information be made available?
Through you, Mr Chair, I believe the assessment has been undertaken, and we have just been advised of the preliminary findings of that assessment. As to whether we can provide that and what state or what form it's in, I would need to get back to you on that.
I'll take that offline.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Hulse.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and I echo your opening remarks. I think this is a fantastic piece of work, and I think it underpins the fact that we needed to start with the Auckland plan first about what we were going to do where and when. We then sleeved in the unitary plan, and then it's given birth to these subsequent plans that tie the whole thing together. So thinking about the way that we should be planning for the next 30 years, I'll use an example of Whenuapai, and given the fact that we were a little bit startled by the live zoning of the Red Hills area, I'm a little bit concerned that some of the timings, particularly maybe in Whenuapai, that we are not necessarily addressing the issue of needing jobs equal to houses. We're very house focused, and you know, the media and some of the loudest voices have been very house focused, but it is of equal importance that we have jobs. Now, thank God we've got Westgate, because we will have jobs and do have jobs at Westgate, but I'm just a little bit concerned with the sequencing, for instance, in the Whenuapai area, that we perhaps might not be bringing commercial industrial land on soon enough. And I'm just, I guess, asking the question, am I misreading that, or are we getting jobs there in parallel?
If we go to page 37 of the agenda, and I think it's attachment F, and not all the numbers are tallied, members, but I've tallied the job number as 67,000 in this future urban land supply strategy, but I'll allow Amanda to expand on that.
Where are they?
Thank you, Mr Chair. My understanding is that the Whenuapai structure plan allows for some employment zoning in that stage 1. And there is also some further employment land identified in the stage 2, but the stage 1 it does have employment land identified through the structure planning.
Okay. I guess the essence of my question, Mr Chair, is that we've become very exercised about getting houses built. We cannot make houses or let people live in areas where there are no jobs. So the second question to that is, some of the sequencing for our roading infrastructure and public transport infrastructure will not adequately service those jobs. So we'll have the houses and then possibly the jobs, but possibly no way for people to get to them. So I'm just, and this is a broad brush question, you know, for instance, again, thinking of some of the developments that we're having in the northwest, we are preparing to build houses hand over fist, and we're still condemning those people to drive to South Auckland to get jobs. So we either sort out the jobs in time, or we sort out the infrastructure, and I guess I'm advocating most strongly that we do not take the pedal off the metal of the bus, that if those houses are going to proceed apace in the northwest, that we start to really apply that pressure to ATAP and say no houses without the northwest busway. So I know that I'm conflating 3 separate things into one, but I cannot express more strongly my concern that we keep the sequencing absolutely tied to the big picture that our staff have articulated so well, and that we don't get diverted by political expediency and the media. Is that a question? Can we do that, Mr Chair?
I think it's been answered by yourself.
And that's often a wise answer.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper?
Thank you. I mean, what she said, and also emphatically, I'm pleased that the Kumu urban land supply has gone back a bit, but when you look at the, hang on, I've had to move this page, something around the structure plan process. We've got the next lot of structure plans are all in the south, and I'm quite concerned that we've already got, you know, prior Auckland Council planning stuff being delivered now in the northwest from both Rodney and Waitakere, but we haven't kept up with the transport. And we also, there's no indication of when any more structure plans will happen in that northwest, the Kumus, the rural towns. We've only got 3 places in South Auckland, and I'm absolutely clear there's 50% of the growth going down there. That needs to happen, but there's another quarter of Auckland's growth going up in the northwest, and we've just finished one structure plan and nothing else indicated here for planning, and I think that's crucial to the communities that live there because they're feeling like no one's taking any notice of their plight, especially around the transport. And we heard from Mr. Ross this morning, 300,000 people are moving across purposes, across the region every day. And everybody's upset and frustrated and basically probably not doing their blood pressure any good in their lifespan because they're having to go other places to work. So I know my question is, what are we doing about structure plans, and will we see a plan of how we're going to roll those out over time, not just the next 3? Thank you.
Amanda,